Pete the Cat 5-minute bedtime stories. Pete the Cat and the Bedtime Blues. Pete and the gang are at the beach. They've been having a groovy time in the surf and sand. But now the sun is starting to set. Pete is bummed out. He doesn't want the fun to end. But what can he do? They can't surf in the dark. Then Pete has an idea. Hey, he shouts. Why should our fun end just because the sun is tired? Let's have a sleepover at my house. That'll give us more time for tons of fun. Pete's friends love that idea. Groovy, says Gus. Will there be snacks? Asks Alligator. Grumpy Toad points to his motorcycle. Come on, let's go to Pete's place. The party at Pete's house is far out. The gang orders pizza and plays and plays and plays. Alligator throws around Pete's soccer ball. Gus goes for a ride on Pete's bike. Grumpy Toad drives Pete's remote control car. And Pete draws with his crayons. Finally, the friends decided it's time for bed. Zip-tick! The gang rolls out their sleeping bags and puts on their pajamas. Good night, Gus, Pete says, turn on off the light. Good night, Alligator. Good night, Grumpy Toad. Good night, Pete, the friends call. Pete pulls his blanket up high. He fixes his sleeping cap. He squishes around to get comfortable. It has been a long, groovy day, but now he is ready for some shut-eye. Slowly, Pete's eyes close. He is about to catch some seizures when he hears a noise. Clap, clap, clap. Pete sits up and turns on the lights. Who did that? He asks. It was me, Grumpy Toad says. I'm not tired. I don't want to go to bed. I want to clap my hands instead. Pete covers his head. Let's clap tomorrow, he says. Right now, this cool cat needs to go to bed. Pete turns off the light again. Good night, Gus. Good night, Alligator. Good night, Grumpy Toad. Time to sleep. Good night, Pete, the friends call. Pete fluffs up his pillow. He pulls his blanket down. Then he closes his eyes. Pete is about to catch some seizures when he hears another noise. Rat-tat-tat-tat. Pete turns on the lights again. Who did that? He asks. It was me, says Gus. I'm not tired. I don't want to go to bed. I want to jam. Pete shakes his head. That was a cool beat, but let's rock out tomorrow. He says, this cat needs his sleep. Pete turns off the lights again. Good night, Gus. Good night, Alligator. Good night, Grumpy Toad. Time to sleep. Good night, Pete, the friends call. Pete rolls onto his left side. He rolls onto his right side. He's about to catch some zizzes. And he hears a loud munch. Pete knows that sound. He's sure it is Alligator. He is always up for eating. Pete turns on the light. Sure enough, Alligator is munching on a piece of pizza. Pete sighs. What can he do? All the clapping, rat-a-tat-ing, and munching are giving him the bedtime blues. Then Pete has an idea. He gets out his favorite storybook, bedtime story, and begins to read. As he reads, Pete notices that the room is quiet. There's no more clapping, rat-a-tat-ing, and no more munching. Pete looks up. His friends have gathered around him. They want to hear the story too. Pete turns back to the beginning of the book and begins to read it aloud. His friends settle down and listen. No one makes a sound. Pete yawns as he turns the last page of the book. He had been so focused on the story, he didn't even notice his friends creep off to their own beds. "Good night, sleep tight," he whispers. Pete puts his book down. He turns off the lights and he closes his eyes. Soon Pete is fast asleep. Dream of another groovy day of surfing fill his head as the cool cat finally catches some diseases. Next story is Pete the Cat and the Lost Tooth. Oh no! Pete lost a tooth. What should he do? Pete shows the tooth to his mom. "Put the tooth under your pillow," he says. "The tooth fairy will come and give you money for it." Pete thinks under his pillow is a strange place for a tooth, but his mom is usually right, and it would be pretty cool to meet the tooth fairy. Pete puts the tooth under his pillow. He closes his eyes and pretends to sleep. Suddenly, he hears a jingling noise. Pete opens his eyes. The tooth fairy is at his window. The tooth fairy flies into Pete's room. He looks worried. "What's wrong?" Pete asks. It's a very busy night," the tooth fairy explains. "I don't know how I'm going to collect all the teeth that fell out today." Pete jumps up. "I can help," he says. The tooth fairy thinks that is an awesome idea. With a flick of her wand, she gives Pete magic wings. Now he can fly just like her. Pete loves his new wings. He zips around his room and does loop-the-loops up in the air. "Groovy!" he shouts. Finally, Pete settles down. "So," he says, "what do I have to do now?" What do I have to do? The tooth fairy gives Pete a list of names. He needs to visit each of these cool kids to get their teeth. The tooth fairy gives Pete 2 bags. One is full of teeth and one is full of coins. "Take the tooth and put it in this bag," she says, "and then leave the coin from this bag under the pillow." Pete looks at the bag of teeth. It already looks full. How will I fit any more teeth in here? He asks. The tooth fairy smiles. "Oh, I wouldn't worry about that. Being a tooth fairy comes with a certain kind of magic." "Far out," Pete says. He's ready to go. Pete's first stop is Callie's house. He flies through the window and straight into her bed. Pete lifts up Callie's pillow. She takes her tooth and leaves behind a coin. Next up is Alligator's house. Pete finds Alligator's tooth. It is big, sharp. He pulls it out from under the pillow and puts a coin in its place. Then Pete sneaks back out the window. Pete smiles to himself. This job is easy. Pete's last stop is Gus. He flies inside and reaches under Gus's pillow. Oh no, there is no tooth. Pete looks next to Gus's drums. He looks into Gus's drawer. He even checks inside Gus's baseball mitt. The tooth is nowhere to be found. Does Pete panic? Nope, he just keeps looking for the tooth. Just then, Gus wakes up. Pete! Gus, Pete cries. I've been looking everywhere for your lost tooth. Where is it? My tooth? Gus asks. Pete nods. I supposed to get it for the tooth fairy. But Pete, Gus says, platypuses do not have teeth. Gus opens his mouth and shows Pete. See? Far out, Pete says. No teeth at all. Gus shrugs. Sorry. It would have been nice to join in the tooth fairy fun. Pete smiles. No worries, he says. He takes a coin from his bag and slips it under Gus's pillow. Thank you, says Gus. You're welcome, Pete says. Good night. Pete leaves Gus's room and heads home. On his way, he comes across the tooth fairy. All done, she asks. Did you have any trouble? Pete shakes his head and holds out the two bags. Nope, everything went great. That was awesome. Thanks, Pete, the tooth fairy says. She takes the bags. I should be getting back to my next house. As Pete makes his way home, he thinks about Gus. Not everyone is the same, but being kind is always cool. That sounds like the perfect title for his next song.